Cole?
Yeah, I got my chocolate milk. We're good. From Tesco.
From Tesco?
Tesco. I've never heard of Tesco until like 2 hours ago, so.
Well, literally just as I left talking about how good Tesco is.
We have Walmart where I'm from, so I don't know.
That's the equivalent to Asda.
You have Walmart?
Asda is owned by Walmart.
Is Asda better
Yeah.
than Walmart?
It's owned by Walmart.
Oh, it's owned by Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I love how you know that. I have no idea.
Random facts.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Sam and Colby panel that happens to be about mental health.
Is it called the Sam
We're going to have a fun time. This panel is about mental health, in case you're unaware. And what is mental health? Well, it's like physical health, but in your brain. And what we're going to hopefully go through in this panel, I'm Tommy, the moderator, by the way, is we're going to hopefully help you walk away with a little bit of information perspective on how to handle one's mental health in this digital era, or as you call it, the era that you live in.
Hashtag MetaLife.
So, first of all, I'd like to go down the line and have our panelists introduce themselves. We will start at the end.
What's up? I'm Colby. I'm part of Sam and Colby, and
Hey guys, I'm Sam.
22 years old.
23.
You're 23. This is going to be a long day.
I'm Holly. You were just like, I'm Sam.
Oh, I'm
Sam.
I'm also 25. This is,
Going in depth about like age, star sign.
you know, I give up.
I'm Holly H. I do TikTok, and I'm 23, and I'm a Libra.
Nice.
I'm Hannah Witton. I make sex ed content on YouTube. I don't know what star sign I'm very confused.
Wait, you don't know what star sign?
I'm on the cusp and I'm having
you're
an
a cusp.
identity crisis. Yeah, let's talk about how that affects your mental health.
Well, and hi, I'm Tom. I'm a comedy writer. You can tell because I'm so funny, and I'm here to be the moderator and keep things trucking along. So the next thing I want to ask my beautiful panelists to do is introduce their journeys with, and relationships with mental health. Mental illness, however you want to tackle it. Tell me what you've been through and how that's going for you. I will do the disclaimer, but first we'll just crack on with this. Starting at the end, yes.
Oh.
All right. So we kind of have the same story a little bit, but Sam and I were both very, very anxious kids. In high school, we were both band kids, and we didn't know how to talk to anybody, and we would like break down in tears, like at the thought of like going on stage, or like not stage, but like going in front of like a class or anything like that. So it's just like living every single day, being nervous to like go to school, and it was horrible. It was like we had to learn how to break out of our shell.
Yeah, just like crippling shyness. Like I said, literally couldn't even get participation points in class because I was too horrified to go to school or, you know, raise your hand and stuff like that. Just kind of realized that didn't want to live that way for the rest of our life, and so that was the main reason why we actually became friends, is due to the fact that we were both dealing with the same stuff, both like anxious and shyness, like in middle school and high school. And you know, we'll get into it a little more later, but over the course of a couple of years, you know, putting ourselves out of the comfort zone, learning, you know, talking with mentors, reading books and stuff like that, we finally were able to change a lot. And that's like the main reason why we started social media, is because after changing, you know, as friends and stuff like that, we realized, hey, we want to show the world that they could do that too if they're in that same state.
Yeah.
It's emotional now. To be honest, mine's pretty much the same as theirs. I was literally the same. I hardly ever went to school, like ever. Ended up studying most of the time from home or from different classrooms to everyone else because I was super, super anxious. And yeah, I've kind of learned to deal with that a lot better. I think it always still affects you though. Yeah. Like, it's always still there with you. It's just you learn how to deal with it better, and you learn how to cope better in situations, and you know what you can and can't do, and kind of don't put that pressure on yourself that you did.
True.
My story is a bit different because, so I have a physical health condition, which from being ill with that has impacted my mental health. The kind of context is that two years ago I had a really bad flare-up of my ulcerative colitis, and I was in hospital for a month and had to have surgery and had my colon removed, and now I have a stoma bag, so that's one of those bags that you poo in. And that took like a huge knock to my body confidence, and just I had like some of my lowest moments during that time, and I guess like the connection as well with the fact that we're talking at an online like video convention. I talked a lot about it on my YouTube channel, and found a lot of support online as well with helping with that. So yeah, that's my story.
Hannah is here to be clapped.
I'm fine now. Pooing in a bag is great because if you smell a fart, it's 100% not me.
Technically true. Hannah is here to be a prime example of how to mediate one's mental health, as despite everything being awful in her life, she's still relatively chipper. Is that what that sounds like?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys. So we're now going to start chatting about mental health. Now that we know a little bit about our beautiful panelists, I'm going to keep calling them beautiful panelists because they are all traditionally good-looking people. I see this from the outside looking in. Now, I want to give a quick disclaimer that we're going to be talking about a relatively serious topic, and it's worth noting none of us are actually mental health experts and cannot be treated as substitutes for such. So, if you're affected by anything we're about to talk about, we all do strongly suggest going and seeking experts. I think I speak for probably a lot of people here when I say, at our darkest moments, it's been very tempting to reach out to and try to connect with the people who bring us so much joy and so much familiarity, such as those on this panel, but it's in no way a substitute for the real deal, or even a real life loved one. Now, let's get into the fun bit. Also, we have a hashtag, Vidcon mental health. Please, yeah, sure, it's on the screen, you're right. Very small, but it's there. If you have any questions you'd like me to throw to the panel, throw them in, and I will be on my phone, so if I look rude, it's because I am, but I am also checking Twitter. Hopefully the hashtag. They said what? Right, let's jump into it, shall we? Guys, talk a little bit about how you feel YouTube and social media has affected your mental health. Has it been good? Has it been bad? Get into it. Hannah, you start.
I mean, like most things, it depends, a bit of both.
All right, thank you. Moving on.
Welcome to my TED Talk. No. So the positives for me is that with what was happening, I had a lot of professionals, like the doctors and nurses in hospital, who could be there to give me like the practical support. They're the professionals. They've seen my situation many times before and could help me there and then. But what I felt like I really needed was emotional support from not just people who have seen it happen, but people who had experienced it. And I found that on the internet. I didn't want to be given, I got given these brochures, and I was like, so you're going to have a stoma bag, and it's old people canoeing on the front cover, and I'm like, I don't relate to this. But the internet really helped me basically find young women who had stoma bags, and watching videos of them talking about their experiences, blog posts or their Instagram feeds or whatever it was. That was so good for me. Seeing people who were 6 months, 6 years down the line from the position that I was in, and seeing them living their best life, having a great time, also being proud of their stoma and showing it off a bit as well. That was exactly what I needed to see, and I wouldn't have been able to access those kinds of people without the internet. The downsides I guess are more specific to being a YouTuber, which is that there is the potential for a lot of people to comment on your personal life choices. And that can feel really bad. Like, and actually, even with like this situation, I'd get a lot of comments just being like, "Are you sure the doctors had to take your colon out? Like, was there nothing else that could be done?" And I'm like, "Are you medically trained? Shut up." Like, but that would really get to me because, you know, I wish there was something. I wish I didn't have to have that happen to me. And all these people are like, are you sure that, you know, you made the right choice there? Like, absolutely. Like, delete. So yeah, like, it's a bit tricky, like, navigating that as well. That was a really long answer. Next.
Pressure. I feel like everyone has kind of a good, bad, love-hate relationship with hate on social media. Like, I feel like I didn't use it. Like, I didn't use it before I started being an influencer as such. Before I started posting video content and stuff. Didn't actually use it. I had like a Facebook page and an Instagram page, but I never really did anything on it because I didn't really enjoy it. It didn't make me happy. Like, I felt like places like Facebook were places where you'd go and people would just continue to be nasty to you. Like, people that didn't like you would just go on Facebook and still be nasty to you. And you're like, brilliant, great, two faces now. So I feel like in that aspect that it's quite a negative thing. But then since I've like grown up with social media a little bit, I've realized how much, it's like how helpful it can be. I feel like for me personally, it's given me so much more confidence to be able to do things. Like having the ability to post videos and be like, okay, not everyone like is horrible, you know, because you get the comments. It's so true though, like so many people that are nice to you on your videos. And I mean, back then, if I got one hate comment, I'd be like, that's it, I want my video down. That's it, I'm done, I'm never posting again. But I kind of had to stop myself and be like, actually, it's one comment in like a sea of really lovely people. So I think that built my confidence a lot, which made me in turn a little bit less anxious. I think it's helped me along the way. And I've also managed to meet friends that I probably never would have been able to meet. And that's an incredible thing for your mental health, to make such amazing friends that do similar things to you and like have the same interests.
I would always argue that the reason why that one negative comment in 1,000 has such a strong impact on all of us, I think this is something that every creative and everyone who has a Twitter account will agree, is that they can just crush you. And I find that's probably because that one comment is the one you agree with. It's picking at your insecurity, that voice in your head, and because you feel a stronger connection with the one person saying you suck, than the one going, you're amazing, it hurts so much more. It's really more you talking to yourself. And yeah, that's my opinion of why that hurts so much.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Positive self-talk.
It's because you hate yourself. That's the lesson.
Yeah, we all just hate each other, or hate ourselves, right? Yeah. No, social media has definitely had ups and downs. We gone through exactly what these guys are talking about. Is, you know, you get 1,000 nice comments, but one is going to push you into depression for a couple days. But it's good and bad. I feel like if you pay too much attention to the small comments and the comparisons, it can get really, really bad. But at least in our experience, luckily, we, never, just like you, Holly, never really used social media before it was our job. Like, I personally hated social media, like all that thing. Yeah, I just didn't want to get into it, and grew up in Kansas, so basically anybody that had social media accounts were shunned anyway. So it was fine. And then when we just got into the whole content creation, it was really hard to get that, take that step and be like, okay, if I am getting hate, all that stuff, then I'm reaching this wider audience of people that are just going to give their brutal, honest opinion. It's not just my friends and family that are watching these videos, so it's good in that sense. But it taught me a lot to just kind of get past that. I got so much hate over the years that now I think it's made me a lot stronger. Just over the years, now I've heard literally every single insult there could possibly be. And even though that sucked at the time, now it doesn't affect you as much. So I was kind of, got thick skin now.
True, yeah, and not to repeat like anything that they've already said, but yeah, it's kind of like a good and a bad thing, because it's like, it's something that makes you stronger. When you get like the hate, like you hear everything and then you're just like, all right, like I can deal with that now, but then obviously you don't, it doesn't feel good to get hate. So it's just one of those things where it happens and you just gotta keep like figuring out how to either ignore it or not let your mind take it to heart too much. Because what I used to do, like when we first started, was kind of like you were saying, like there'd be like 1,000 like awesome, super positive comments, but then one that was just like talking about a certain something that like got under my skin, and that just like consumed my mind for the next couple days. And over time, I was able to learn how to just, you know, see those comments and then just like distract my mind again and move on.
I think even worse though than hate comments, in my personal experience, is comparison. I've been, you know, social media is our job, so we're constantly on our phones, and I think that is really horrible for mental health. I think like, you know, social media and, you know, using it for entertainment is a great thing, but when you're sitting there bored and you're just going through your Instagram feed or different YouTubers and stuff, and like you're compared to these people's best moments, you think that's how you should be, and like, I don't know, I see, you know, 1,000 new people every single day that I'm comparing myself to, and just that's not good. That's not how you should live your life. Like, you know, 150 years ago, without internet and stuff, no one's seeing all these random people all the time, so they don't have to compare themselves.
And you gotta keep in mind that everybody posts their best image of themselves online. Like, everybody's Instagram.
1.1%.
Yeah, so it's mostly just like, you know, either super edited or super like, it's not exactly real life. It's like very, very...
They aren't gonna post themselves, you know, eating Cheetos in their bed.
Right.
Well, I feel like comparison-wise, with what you said, that it made me feel a lot more confident knowing that massive influencers that I've met, like, feel exactly the same. Like, I've met people with hundreds of millions of followers that feel exactly the same about every picture they post. They hate it. They hate everything about it. They hate everything they post, and you're like, you're actually stunning. Like, you'll look at them and be like, you are the prettiest person I've ever seen, and they're like, I look really ugly, and you're like, I don't hang my pictures.
Yeah, but it's nice for all you say such nice things about beautiful life. So, you guys have all said some very similar things. You've all touched on haters and stuff. A question I've been catching a lot on the hashtag is, how do you deal with haters? And you've talked about maybe just ignoring it, but are there any specific things you do when you get hate? Because obviously it's the most tempting thing is to reply, and I think we can all agree that's a bad decision. Are you a muter? Are you a blocker? How do you cope with the hate?
If it's like a recurring thing, like somebody, like the same person is hating on you over and over and over again, then yeah, you should block them. Like, get rid of all negative people like in your life. But for people like us, like creators who get thousands of these comments, that's why I just like scroll back and just kind of ignore it, and that's like what works for me.
Not sure if this is scientifically proven or anything like that, but a long time ago my parents told me, like, you know yourself better than anybody else. So they told me to write down who I am on like a note sheet. I'm like, well, what are your best characteristics? What do you like about yourself? And like who you are as a person. So if anyone who's commenting and like tears you down and says something that's not on that list or that doesn't agree with the list, obviously they don't know you. Like, so it should be invalid. And so I kind of like, over the years, just thought about that and said, like, you know, if someone's disagreeing with who they think I am, like, they don't know me, they're this random person across the world. Like, I shouldn't care about their opinion as much as I care about the opinion of myself.
I do. Mine's pretty similar though, to be fair. I always say to everyone, there's certain people in your life that you should value the opinion of, like your family, your friends, people that care about you. I mean, I always say, if they tell you you look bad in some jeans, you probably look bad in the jeans. Like, but if some random person in the comments tells you that, it's like, well, they're just kind of doing it because they're bored. So it's got nothing to do with how you should feel about yourself. Like, if there's a comment that ever affects you, I think go to someone that you know cares about you and be like, do you think this about me? And the most likely would be like, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a muter and a blocker, depends on my mood. But I think, like you said, it's so tempting to reply or retaliate in some way, especially when you're like, oh, I've got this really sassy like remark, and then I think also like when you have an audience online, it's very easy to like call out a nasty comment because you know that, like, even if you don't intend it to happen, and even if you ask them not to, your audience could potentially let them go to that original comment and then harass that person for leaving a comment. And I'm like, so that happened a few times, and I was like, actually, this is fueling the hate instead of doing anything to stop it. But if I do feel like I need that like cathartic release to like make fun of this bad comment, because sometimes I just really need to do that because that will in that moment make me feel better. But I know it's counterproductive to like blast it on my socials. I will just like private message it to friends.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, and that genuinely helps because I get that release of like just I need someone else to see this and to laugh with me, but I don't want to like actually cause more hate and like and I don't want to be sending a message to my audience that even though their comment wasn't okay, it's like not okay for me to then do that, basically.
We've talked about some healthy coping mechanisms to deal with this stuff. Is there anything that you know is bad for you that you do anyway, or of a fun one? For me, myself, I like checking my own name on Twitter and finding the meanest things people said about me. Like I said, it scratches that itch of like,
That's how
because I hate myself. And sometimes it's nice to find...
to send you positive affirmations though.
Thank you so much. It's nice to find like-minded people sometimes. But do you guys genuinely have anything that you know is a bad idea, be it reading the comments or stuff like that, but do anyway?
I haven't done it in ages because I've been able to exercise some self-restraint, but like checking on gossip websites.
This is not advice, this is a cautionary tale.
Yeah, don't do this. Whenever I've like felt that little like, oh, I want to see what they're saying about me, and it always ends badly. The last time I did it was shortly after I came out of hospital, because my brain was just like, I wonder what they're saying about what happened. And it's so weird because you look at the thread and it's like mean, like the most awful things, like that, like you said as well, like it's getting to my insecurities. So I'm more likely to believe the mean comments because I already like believe those things about myself. And then suddenly it changes of like, oh my God, did you hear that Hannah's in hospital? Oh my God, hope she's okay. Oh, all those mean comments that we said seem like really bad now because like I think she might die. And then they're all like freaking out and they're all like posting updates, being like, oh, this has just happened, this has happened. Oh my God, I hope she's okay. It all seems really trivial now. It was that was scary. It was really weird. And then they were updating each other as I was recovering and coming out of hospital. And then within 2 weeks of me coming out of hospital, it got mean again.
I mean, we've seen a very similar pattern lately in the real world with regards to that poor host of Rhode Island. Like the same thing happened where the people were not nice, and then suddenly she passes away, and everyone is, oh no, we're suddenly so concerned and kind.
Yeah.
It's a kind of universal phenomenon, it seems.
Yeah.
People don't like to feel guilty, is I think the reason for that behavior.
Yeah.
I feel like on a non-social media sort of level in particular, I overwork myself. And I know I overwork myself. And I know that's bad for me. But I'll still do it. Like, I'm sick now. Like, I know these things, but I do it anyway. And on the social media side, I find when my hometown posts articles about me, I like to go to the comments.
Yeah.
And I like to read them because I know the people, and I still do it, and I know I shouldn't do it, and I know I shouldn't read them, and I know I shouldn't go through it, but I still do. And that's really not good for me. But I'll see people I know and be like, oh, so that's what you think. I see. I'll just go through every so often. It's bad for you.
And then you check their Facebook, and you see how they're doing.
Yeah.
And you go,
Well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we don't get as much hate as we used to, so that's great. But it's really funny. So Colby and I love to look through our comments when a video of ours gets recommended on YouTube, because recently, thankfully, we had a few videos on the trending page, which is awesome. But it's really funny because when it gets pushed out to new audience, the hate is amazing. It's so crazy. So as soon as like things get on trending, we like sit there in the car and we're like, oh my god, look what this guy said. And it's probably not very good for our self-esteem, but it's really fun to see what people say about our group.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. Like usually, it's always seeing like after our videos recommended, like all the hate, like you're just like, I probably shouldn't look at this, but then you're just like, well, what if I just read like 10 comments and see what people are saying? So yeah, it's pretty unhealthy. But then kind of touching back on what we were talking about a little bit earlier, just like comparing yourself to people is something I do subconsciously. Like I don't even know I'm doing it sometimes, that I'm like, what am I doing? Or I'll go to like somebody's Instagram and just like stalk the pictures and be like, why can't I like take pictures like this or look like this, like in my head? And I don't know, I like need to figure out how to like stop myself from doing that. And I just constantly just keep doing that.
Get off the phone. One thing I do want to say though about hate that really helped me like get over it is the idea that a lot of people, most of the time, are hating not in the fact of they truly don't like that thing about you. It's because one, either they're jealous, or two, they want to get your attention. So most of the time they're trying to like get a reaction, because some people do, like when a hater says something really hurtful, sometimes that creator does reach out, they post them, they like, tweet back at them, and they get that reaction. So a lot of haters are just trolls that are trying to get a response, or they're just jealous. And they don't truly think, oh, that person's ugly. No, they're like, that person is like the opposite, but I would love to tear them down because they want to bring them down to their level.
Have you ever gone back and messaged someone? Because I have.
I used to, and then I just realized that made it so much worse.
I remember that just reminded me, like, I remember once I messaged someone and I was like, I'm sorry you think that about me, like, but I'm not.
Yeah. And then their next comment is,
like, oh my god,
I love you.
I love you so much. Yes. And you're like, wait.
Oh my god.
What?
Where you're just like, why would you say that? Like,
I don't understand. Like,
I think that's something that we've probably all experienced actually. I have messaged people that have left really horrible comments and had that just like, why would you say that kind of moment? And every time the reply is, oh, I didn't think you'd actually reply. And it becomes very obvious that this commenter is just someone who is desperate for attention in that moment and is lashing out at the thing that's in front of them. And by and large, it's rarely something that personal. We have a question from the audience, from Faith, which is, what's the worst thing you can do when you get hate? And I feel like everyone has kind of given an answer to that, which is replying, engaging, amplifying. Would you all agree that maybe the best thing to do for a lot of it is just walk away?
I think either walking away or just being compassionate and kind. Like, I always tell my followers in particular, if someone's nasty in my comment section, to not go back with anger. Like, if they feel like they have to say something nice. Like, never to be aggressive back, never to go back at something, because they get bored and they move on.
I think one of the worst things that you could do is internalize it. Like, actually dwell on it for so long that it actually just becomes part of the narrative that you, like, of your like inner thoughts about how you feel about yourself. But if that kind of thing is happening, then definitely speak to someone.
Right, let's pivot to the positive a little bit now. Let's talk about support. And this is something that we can talk about from two angles. One is, what are the best things that people can do to support you if you're going through a tough time? Or two, what are some of the things that you've done for other people to support them going through a tough time? Just talk about support, let's get friendly. Anyone jump in, go crazy? No? No? Bad choice of words.
People that support you, or
yeah, like, is there anything in particular that people in your life have done to support you and your mental health that you think has been really helpful?
My family follow me everywhere. They're right there. Hi guys. They're definitely the biggest part for me. If I'm struggling with something, they will always be there. Like, always, hands down. And I'm sure you guys will probably agree with most of that. And my friends, like my close friends, like, I can always call them. Whether I'm at the other side of the world to them, I can always FaceTime them and they'll be there. Like, for that sort of support. But then other people, I think just kindness. I think everyone lacks that compassion and that kindness to each other. It's like you can meet someone who seems angry, but generally their anger is caused by something. It's like all the people with London and road rage. There's an angry town.
I think for me, one of the ways that I feel the most supported in that, and the way that I like to support friends of mine is it sounds so simple, but if you make the message private instead of public. Like recently, a friend of mine had some really horrible news, and I found out about it from a post that she did on Instagram, and that's fine. That's like that's how you get the news about your friends sometimes. But instead of like publicly commenting, I was like, that doesn't feel appropriate, so I'm going to support her by actually reaching out and messaging her privately. And I always appreciate it when I receive that kind of support, instead of like a friend commenting on an Instagram post where I'm like in distress or whatever it might be, or quote tweeting like, sorry babe. I'm like, no, what I want you to do really is text me or call me or ask if I want you to call me. Like that kind of support where it's not performative.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like they're doing it just to show their followers how nice they are.
Right, exactly. And so when it is,
even if that's not their trying.
when it's a private thing that's happening, whether that's like via text or DMs or in person or a call, like that is so meaningful.
Sam, Colby?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need to have somebody to listen to you, or like listen to other people. Like one of the best things you can do is let somebody rant, like if they're going through a hard time, just like let them like get it all out, talk about it, because talking about it and getting it out and like just not having it constantly in your mind just helps so much.
Yeah, they want to be heard. I would say, like, if you're trying to support someone, whether that be on social media or it's your friends or your family, a good place that I always start is the things that are deep down meaningful to them. Like, you know, even just giving them time, but rather than congratulating them on big face value accomplishments or things that are shallow, like appearances or something like that, compliment them, support them on the things that they're passionate about, like their true passions and arts and stuff that they find dear to their heart. It'll mean so much more than just commenting on the stuff that they're known for in like the rest of their life, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but as opposed for me, for example, as opposed to like saying, oh, like your YouTube videos, like I would genuinely appreciate it if my friends came up and said, oh, I really like the way that you think, or the way that you like said this specific point, just because it would mean more to me to know that they actually listen as opposed to just like making general statements. I don't know.
Now, obviously, having mental health issues, having bad days is difficult for you, but I think a lot of us can also maybe agree that it can be difficult for the people around us. It can be, not a burden so much, but it can be a strain, and it can be quite overwhelming for our loved ones. So I always am a strong believer that communication is key, and that communicating to your loved ones when you are going through a hard time makes it a lot easier for everyone involved, for them to care for you appropriately, and for them to maybe not think that, oh, hey, I've done something wrong, they're angry at me. Do you have any particular ways that you communicate with your loved ones? Holly, I know that you're very close with your family. Are they just psychically linked, or do you have to use real words sometimes?
Sometimes psychically linked, for sure, definitely. But it's just, my mum's just over there like, psychic. But I feel like I'm pretty open nowadays. I used to be very closed off and I never used to talk about anything. I used to be like, yeah, been anxious before, but like, yeah, cool. But now I'm very open. I'm just like, if I'm having a hard time, I'm like, look, this is difficult. Help me. Like, cool, great.
One of the things that I talk about a lot on my channel in relation to relationships, but I think it applies here because a lot of that is about communication, is meta communication, which basically just means communicating about how you like to communicate. So that basically means it's like if you say to someone like, I'm not really a texter, or I hate FaceTime, or you say, when I'm having a bad mental health day, I don't like this kind of communication, or I tend to kind of retreat and do this thing. And so being able to communicate about how you communicate in different states of mental health is kind of like the starting point that you need, so that when you might be having a bad day, then the people around you know actually what kind of communication that you need. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, it's hard not to notice that this audience is very skewed towards the female end of things. And I think that can change one's relationship with online hate. So we have a question from Lucy for Hannah and Holly, which is, how do you think attitudes towards women on the internet have affected your mental health? So do you think you get a harder rap? Do you think there are different ways that people come at you?
I mean, I think that we think that, but speaking to more guys that have had similar issues, I feel like they feel exactly the same. Like do you guys compare yourself as much as girls do?
Oh, I do all the time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like, I feel like we look at it like, girls get all of this, girls get all of that, but boys just hide it more, I think. Boys don't talk about it, boys don't let others know that it bothers them, because there's this whole, like, I don't know, what's the word? Like, stigma? Yeah? Against guys struggling, because it's like, oh, they're not loud. But
Have to be
girls
tough.
are. Yeah.
I've never had a feeling
I
in
feel
my
like
life.
that's the biggest problem there. But I don't know, I feel like girls hate girls. They do.
Girls are vicious.
They're mean to each other.
I don't have a guru gossip.
I mean, you guys probably all gone to school / maybe still go to school. Girls are mean, right? Yeah. They're horrible. They're horrible beings. But
I'm gonna throw it out there because I get most of my horrible comments from men. And it's specifically because I'm a woman and the comments are extremely gendered in their nature. And I don't want to repeat any of them now, but basically in relation to my body, sexual violence, and in that realm. And I think that, you know, I'm a woman on the internet who is speaking about sex, speaking about feminism, and that does not bode well in certain communities, and they are mostly men, and they can be vicious. And the way that has kind of affected my mental health is that I'm scared. Like, I'm genuinely scared about a lot of the things that I post. I'm really conscious about privacy, which I know like a lot of online content creators are. That's really important just for anyone in general. But to the extent where, like, I don't know, like my partner like used to do boxing, and he was like teaching me how to throw a punch, because I was like, what if someone comes, and what if actually like there's a situation in person, and I'm like teaching myself self-defense because of comments that I get on the internet. And that is, I think, a more specifically female thing.
And to the women in the audience that may, experience the same things or have those same fears, is there any advice you could give to combat, I guess, not just the threats themselves, but the fear?
So talk to people around you about the certain kinds of comments you're getting, so that they're aware of things. If anything is like going to like a stalker level, definitely get the police involved. One thing that I do is that I tend to have a good gauge on if a comment is just like a throwaway, nasty comment, or like something that I'm like, ooh, my little, like, that's potentially dangerous, ears are spiking. And what I'll do is I'll screenshot and I keep a folder of everything, so that in case anything has to be escalated, I have the evidence. And yeah, just making sure that the people around you like know, and you can talk to them about it and stuff. Yeah. Oh, sorry!
So, it's tough, but it's something that can massively affect us, and it's worth talking about. So we're going to get kicked out of this room fairly shortly, but have a look. Let's think about maybe some mental health advice self-care advice that we can give to our audience, because I think that sleep is lovely.
Get a hobby. Get some sleep.
Get off the
Let me
phone.
finish the question.
Put your phone away.
What's the question?
What self-care, self-love, self-preservation techniques do you use, or you would advise other people to help you get through those bad days, to just walk away from the computer sometimes, go nuts? Again, sorry, bad choice words. Go healthy.
Yeah, again, I would just say put your phone away. If your mind is telling you or you're in a negative place, negative mindset, just put your phone away. Just put it down. That's what I do.
There's this thing that I always talk about. It's called the lethargy cycle, being lethargic. You're in a rut, you have multiple bad days in a row, you feel like you can't get out, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. It's probably because you're in a habit. So I love the idea of breaking habits and doing something different. So if you're in a bad state of mind, or if you feel like you just I've been having a couple weeks that are just kind of in this rut, change up your lifestyle. Do things that are different. Change up your routine, go to bed at different times. Just make sure that you are just living that routine, because that cycle is probably what's causing that same emotion over and over.
Yeah, try something new. Get off the couch. If you're upset on the couch all the time, you just can't leave. Just do your best to force yourself off of that situation, or find something to do. Distract your mind.
I would literally agree with everything you just said. The phone thing, it's bad. It always sounds bad. Creators are put your phone down, because
After you watch our YouTube videos, right?
After you watch our But it's so true though. You have to put your phone down. If your phone is damaging your health, you've got to put it away. You can go on and text your friends and stuff, and that's fine. But if social media in particular is damaging the way you're thinking about yourself, then you need to restrict it.
You might not even realize that it is until you do put your phone down.
Yeah, you'll realize that actually I was really stressed out, and now I'm really fine. Quite literally.
I really like what you said about the habits thing. That's so true, and I often find myself in that rut, and it's just you have to first realize that you're in the rut, and then do something different. I think this is also advice for me, which is get a hobby, do something that you don't post about. Do something that is actually private for you, that you don't feel has to show that you're being productive or whatever. Do something that is just for you.
And yeah, I would say that you can just never go wrong with just forcing yourself to just have an hour of healthiness. I've been stuck in bed, overwhelmed, and sometimes just forcing myself out of bed, into the shower, to eat some food, to put on some clean clothes, and just take a walk to the shops and get outside and get some fresh air. Obviously that's not going to solve my problems, but it's going to be a lot better than just succumbing to the bed.
It's those little achievements. I think you really don't notice little things a lot of the time. You're so focused on the big things. Years ago I wouldn't be able to come to events like this, and last year I came to my first Vidcon, and that's a huge step, but you don't really think about it in the moment. It's little things, from not being able to really leave the house because I was so anxious, to being able to go to the garage. It's just little things that you need to remember are such a big deal for you, and even if to other people it doesn't seem like such a huge deal, it's well, to me, actually it is.
And of course, none of this is a substitute for if you're really feeling quite serious, reaching out to a medical professional, or speaking to a family member, asking a friend or anyone to go with you to the doctor, and actually getting the ball rolling on some professional help. I would like to thank my panelists, Hannah, Holly, Sam, and Colby. Thank you for coming. I hope you will enjoy VidCon. Go away.
Thank you guys. Bye.